Nothing in life is linear, and that includes our education and employment journey. Whether you earned your GED as an adult, decided a four-year college wasn't the right path for you, or you're looking to employ a talent pool of competent candidates eager to join the workforce, you've come to the right place. Join me for Education Unplugged, where I can talk to learners, educators, and employers looking to destigmatize the educational road less traveled. We're here to make a positive impact today and for generations to come. It only takes one person to invest and connect with a learner for their belief in themselves to transform the future. From test taker to change maker, we're here sharing the stories of people who have taken a non-traditional path to a better life. Welcome to Education Unplugged. I cannot wait for you all to meet our next guest, Justice Sanders. Justice is a determined, resilient GED grad who has successfully landed with a very well-known employer. He demonstrates commitment to education, self-improvement, and he has a clear path for making a positive impact on the world. He's focused on using his knowledge and skills to drive change and create a better future for others. And not only is he a GED grad, he also has become a trusted friend and colleague to me and to the entire GED organization. So welcome, Justice. It's great to have you here today.
Yes, thank you for the warm welcome. It's always good to see you. I feel like every time we get connected, it's always a good conversation.
Well, it's the same goes for me. And I can't wait for everyone to feel the connection that I have and that you've had with the entire GED organization. But what I'd love to start with, Justice, is you just giving everyone a little bit of background on you, yourself, and how you and I got connected.
Alrighty, yeah, that's a great story. It's been a long time coming, so it's hard to pick a place to start. But my name is Justice Sanders. I grew up in Daly City, California, which is like in the Bay Area. I basically bumped into Vicki at a Bay Area Council event, which was focused on like the future of workforce development in California. So the reason why I got to that conference was because of my participation in my internship and apprenticeship program. But one of the reasons why we got connected is because, as I was saying, my story about my experience as an intern and an apprentice, I talked about how all of it was started with my journey getting my GED and how like that was my first experience, like learning how to learn, really testing my own capabilities and seeing if I can actually achieve my GED. Because leaving high school early, I was like, okay, this is probably going to be super hard because there's math, there's history, and I never really like dedicated myself to actually studying. But after I did that, that was like the first kickoff of momentum. And after that, I found my internship program called Year Up. Did that for quite some time, and that opened up a lot of doors to advocate for other skill-based folks. So then I got into the room, shared my story, and like Vicki hopped up out her seat, dabbed me up, showed me love. And I remember this woman right here showing love. And then we connected after. And then the cool thing I like about connecting with Vicki was that I got to hear about her why statement, like why is this so important to her? Because we can be anywhere in life, and she decided to make an impact in the GED realm. So much appreciated for you. Much appreciated.
Yeah, well, it was an instant bond. As soon as I heard your story about earning your GED and then going to the Year Up program and then landing with a really large employer, what impressed me most about you was your resilience. And as I got to know you and hear your story, I'm even more enthralled with what you had to go through to get to where you're at today. And there's so many people out there, Justice, that look just like you and have stories really similar to you. And you and I have talked about my story and, my struggle in education. There's a lot of learners out there who are struggling. And so I'd love for you to share more of your story and your struggle as to your struggle is actually still helping you today and really persevere through, your job and through life and all of that. So I think others would enjoy hearing your story as much as I have.
No, absolutely. So when it comes to like the struggle, right, there has to be some challenge, there has to be some sort of blocker that's like keeping me away from whatever I want to do with my life. And that was always like education. And I feel like for me, one of my things was I didn't really believe in my own capabilities because I didn't really have a lot of opportunities to apply myself. So hearing about GED after dropping out of high school was like, okay, this is my first test, you know? And I kind of had a lot of animosity, like I'm pretty sure a lot of people do, when they're in these uncomfortable situations where they feel like they're being judged, where they didn't meet the expectations. And I'm literally outside of high school, senior year, watching all my friends graduate, go to prom, have all these different like internal high school community events that I couldn't partake in because I already left high school early so I could take care of my family, so I could work 2 jobs. But it actually ended up working in my favor because the place I worked at Denny's was like right across the street from a GED center. And I kind of like made this pretty nice workflow to where I would go to work, study at GED Center for 2 hours, and then go back to work at my security guard job. And then I kind of would just recycle that until I was ready to take the test. And I feel like when you talk about resilience, it's kind of like, how was I able to prioritize studying for a test that I didn't think I could pass while also working 2 jobs was like my first big challenge. But
Mhm.
2 things that I appreciate about GED are just like the GED organization was that the adult educators that were there, they did not show any form of judgment, no matter if I came consistently or if I left for a month and came back due to whatever was going on. I feel like that was a huge thing because that support and community throughout every single phase of my journey has been critical for moving forward, staying consistent with studying, stuff like that was a huge thing. And then just the knowledge too, like understanding math through these online curriculums, understanding social studies, and then like being with a group of people who were all learning the same material and seeing that, okay, I'm actually catching on. Like that was a great experience. And then fast forward to me actually completing my GED. I feel like that day, I think I may have even shedded a tear because
Yeah.
I felt, I don't know, I felt like there was so many different things stacked up against me. And getting the GED was like the first testament that it doesn't really matter what's against you. Like, as long as you keep showing up and you keep going hard, like, you're going to overcome. So that was my GED resilience story. And then there's a couple other things after that, but
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, here's why I love your story, and why everyone out there listening is going to hear that, is that, I think there's this there's a stigma that says if you take a different path, that it's not necessarily good. And what we're saying is that not one path doesn't fit everyone's path. And you were doing exactly what you needed to do to support your family, working 2 jobs. You left high school because you had to support your family. And there were other things out there. And so it wasn't that you wanted to leave high school because you necessarily wanted to, it was because you also had to do the right thing. And that's the message that I want to resonate with everyone listening, is that sometimes your path is going to take a different road, but it doesn't mean that it's a bad path, and it doesn't mean that you can't get on a different path and it's just as good. And I think that's what you're the example of, is that you took a different path, you did what you had to do for your family, and then earning your GED while working 2 jobs, while trying to help your family navigate life. And so I think that's where the GED learner is showing critical skills. Like we're showing that the GED learner, when it comes to critical skills and critical thinking, is exceeding the high school graduate. And your example is exactly the reason why. And so as you're thinking about all the things that you went through, all of the juggling in the air that you had to do, why is it that an employer would want to hire a GED grad? What are the skills and the abilities that you think every GED learner brings to the table?
the skills and ability. So this is something that we've talked about before when it comes to like applying that project management mentality to life. And I feel like before I even knew what project management was, that was kind of how I live my life. Because when the stakes are high and the risks are severe, you got to make sure that you're punctual. You got to make sure that you're effective with everything that you do, whether it's making sure your family's taken care of, whether it's making sure that you're taking care of all your adult responsibilities or your health. And I had no one else to rely on besides myself. So everything that I did was super critical. So kind of adopting that mentality before breaking into like my corporate job, I realized, okay, everything that I'm doing in real life is applicable here. So to answer
Mhm.
your question, I feel like there's a lot of folks who have that ability in them when it comes to like just getting stuff done and understanding that everything that they do is really impactful, not only for them, but to their families. So they take that opportunity to grow much more serious. And that's my own personal opinion. But I feel like when your back is up against the wall, like there's not much that can stop you from making it out besides yourself. So I feel like that's the cool thing about the GED learner is that they're in a
Mhm.
battle with themselves to really change not only their life, but generations behind them. So that level of criticality is huge for when I think about why is a GED learner more um, effective or valuable to an organization than your more conventional college grad. So that's like my main spill. And then also just a lot of people who haven't had the opportunity to learn in these like formal institutions, they look at these jobs as their one way ticket. Like for me, I don't only look at my job as the thing that's paying my bills and my occupation, but I look at this as my stepping stone to my next opportunity. And if I don't
Yeah.
pay close attention to learning about how this job works, how people talk, then I'm missing out on all the knowledge that they learned in college that they're indirectly sharing with me. So I just feel like the lived experience of working in these jobs is much more different for folks who come from that GED path because life is their teacher, you know? Every experience is an opportunity to learn. So that's my perspective on that.
Yeah, it's so good. Life is the teacher. I think that's really, it's so powerful because I think, again, what you're showing and what your path did is that maybe it wasn't conventional education that you were learning along the way, but you were building all these skills with every obstacle that you were faced. The key attribute that I see in all of that and that I've seen in you is that you never quit. And
Mm,
that's the other attribute that I think every employer and everyone should know about the GED learner is that it's really hard to show up after not being in school for several years. It's really intimidating to go have to take a test in something that maybe you didn't love when you were in the K through 12 system. It's really difficult to say, gosh, do I have what it takes to pass this? And the bottom line is you did. And you didn't stop and you didn't quit, even when you had all these things coming at you all at once, all trying to take care of your family, knowing that you want to get what everyone wants, which is a career. You want to land with a company, and maybe that's several companies, several different jobs, but you want to land in a company that's going to invest in you and your health and well being, and that's exactly what's happened for you. So I think you are a true testament to and then all of the obstacles that you faced and you didn't quit. And so, Justice, when you look back at your journey and you look at the times where, maybe you didn't want to get out of bed, maybe you didn't want to go work the two jobs, maybe you're like, I don't want to study today because it's just too tough. What was it that you did that got you out of bed? What was it that drew you to say that I'm not going to quit? And what is it today that does that for you today?
man, no, that's a really great question because I feel like I've been through this transition period in my life to where my source of energy and momentum comes from two different places. I feel like at that point in time, like I said earlier, I had a lot of animosity just with my circumstance, with my life, with the naysayers. And I also was in this survival mentality. Like, if
Yeah.
I don't do it, who will? What will happen if I don't make it happen because I got my folks depending on me? And I just kind of had more rough around the edges, like let's make it happen, you know? Like I would even get to the gym, same mentality. I would get to the
Mhm.
work site, same mentality, because it was really just me. Like I left home early at 17. I tried to enroll back into high school and get emancipated. That didn't work. Enrolled super late, and then started getting into like truancy issues. So I already felt like there were more odds stacked against me. And it was either go hard and turn up or fold, you know? And I had to just wake up every morning with that certain like chip on my shoulder, certain like, they all think I'm not going to make it, but I will make it. Now I'm in this new season of my life where I have a tremendous amount of support. I've already proven to myself that I'm capable when it comes to some of the most like foundational steps of starting a career. I've done great things. I've met great people like yourself. And now I'm kind of straying away from that survival mentality. And I'm now more to this like growth mindset. So I realize that it's not a matter of can I do it? Will I do it? It's a matter of how far can I take it now? And I've realized that there's a lot that comes with making that transition fully because some days I am thinking with that survival mentality when there's no reason to scrape pennies no more. There's no reason to feel like, oh, I don't know when my last day will come at this job or and I need to prepare for the rainiest day to come. By all means, yes, we do need to stay agile regardless of whatever life throws at us. But it's just it's a really important thing for me to be available for people who are going through this transition because it's kind of like being in your toughest times, people feel like, okay, you need the most amount of support. Let's make it happen. And then once you make it out and people are assuming that, okay, life is perfect for you. You've already made it. You've already accomplished this goal. Life does not stop. There's always going to be something else at the end of the tunnel. But where you get that momentum and that motivation to like persevere past it, those places change. So for me, I'm trying to do some like internal work to make sure that I'm not living in that survival spirit and I'm feeding healthy um, motivation to myself when it comes to growing, not growing out of fear, but growing out of aspirations and finding things that I actually care about. And like to wrap that note up, the reason why I feel like that's so important is because quality of life. I feel like my quality of life as I was still achieving my goals could have been much better if I didn't have so much animosity and tension and negativity within me. But I had to have that in order to pass through some of my darkest times. But now,
Yeah, isn't that so true? Isn't that so true? And I know, in talking with you, like your darkest times, your hardest times has also given you that motivation because I think you and I are a lot alike where if someone says you're not going to do something, you're going to show them and you're going to go figure it out. And in all of that, in all of your ups and downs of life, and by the way, that doesn't stop, like it keeps going. It's just that we get tougher, we get better at dealing with hard, right? We face challenges and then we just figure out and then we get to the next one.
absolutely.
How about imposter syndrome? Did
Mm.
you ever suffer? Do you suffer from that? Thinking, gosh, I'm not good enough. I don't have it. Why am I here? Why am I having these conversations? Because the thing that I've noticed about you and that you've done since the second that I met you is that the reason that you have such a good support system is because you built it. You've created those relationships, you foster those relationships, you're dedicated to those relationships. So, talk about imposter syndrome, how you dealt with it, and how you still deal with it today, if you do.
Oh man, no, it's always going to be there regardless, especially in the industry. Like working in technology, the main asset that you bring to the table is your ability to continuously learn. And if you don't develop that muscle, if you don't show that you are constantly learning and applying these skills, then you might feel like you're getting behind folks. And like for me, I work primarily around all folks who have gotten their PhDs or have gone to get their bachelor's degrees. And I do deal with imposter syndrome, but I've realized through my own work ethic that it's just me. It's me against me. The only difference between me and these individuals is the amount of work that they put in. And I feel like
Yeah.
that keeps me honest because I've realized that there's always more room for constructive feedback, for constructive growth. And if I really want to reach that next level, I have to be open to that while not being too hard on myself because I am very different from a lot of people I work around. And sometimes when you're trying to measure growth and measure impact, you try to do it in comparison to the folks that you're around, but not in comparison to where you started and where you are today. So
Yeah.
I have to constantly remind myself that the imposter syndrome may not be as deep as it actually is, but because I'm comparing myself to all these people around me, I'm feeling behind. So I'm trying to like find more ways to like keep myself honest when it comes to like growth And then that kind of like makes the imposter syndrome a little bit less severe. But sometimes you may feel like you studied something and you got it down packed, and now you're in the game ready to apply it, and you don't hit it on the all cylinders the way you want to. But you got to take those opportunities and kind of like be humble about it, and then not focus on the failure, but focus on the things that you miss so that you can grow. And then that just makes the imposter syndrome a little bit less severe, but it's always present, always, especially when you're trying to grow. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I mean, here's the bottom line. I don't know of anyone that doesn't have elements of imposter syndrome throughout their entire career,
Mm.
because no one is just born into running a company. No one's just born into how I'm going to take on a new role. And so the thing that I love about what you said is the bottom line, it's investing in yourself, and
Mm.
it's in believing in yourself, because the biggest critic that we have is ourself. And the importance in all of that is really believing in yourself, even when you think there's no one else out there that's going to believe in you. You have to stick to believing in yourself, and believing that you have the skills that it takes. And again, it comes back to never giving up. And again, I think that's what I've grown to love about you, is that you don't give up. Even when you do have a bad day, even when you have imposter syndrome, you're like, all right, I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to keep trying. And then that's where you're knocking on other people's doors. I know that you are not afraid to go ask for help. I know that you're a learner at heart, and you're always going to be a learner. So I think that's exactly it, Justice. And I think what's going to be so welcoming for everyone that listens to this is they're going to relate to what you're saying, and they're going to feel what you're saying. And so, what I'd love for you to talk about is every GED learner out there right now who's studying, wanting to earn their GED, who's faced with imposter syndrome, or every learner out there who knows they want to go earn their GED and they're held back from fear of failure.
Mm.
Talk to every single one of them and give them advice as to what they're doing and how they're feeling, and how you believe you overcame those.
Fear of failure. Man, that's such a strong statement, especially when you living through it, because it's like, man, like if I fail once, I'm probably gonna fail every time, you know? But I feel like
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest myths that I kind of overcame, is that if I fail once, I'm gonna fail every time. It just is proven false every single time. And the cool thing about failing to me is that you're showing up, you know? You're showing
Yeah.
up, and you're being not only resilient, but you are being a man or woman of your word. You know, I feel like that's the most valuable thing to me. And I think that's what you touched on earlier about, if someone tells us that we can't, we're going to show them that we can somehow. And I feel like I always think about this analogy of like in those like sport movies or fight movies, it'd be the team that's getting whooped on, or the dude in the boxing ring getting whooped on. And people relate more to his resilience while he is failing, and then eventually overcoming that battle. But it's
Yeah.
those moments of like, wow, you're still going, like,
Yeah.
wow, you are
Exactly.
still fighting, you're still here. I feel like those were the moments for me that made me be like, keep going, you know, whether I was in the gym, whether I was studying, whether I was showing up to my shift. Like, we are our like hardest critic, and we got to be our biggest supporter too.
Yeah.
And the fear of failure is going to be a myth that I feel like everyone will realize as they continue to walk out their journey. But if it wasn't for as many times as I failed, I probably wouldn't have been here. And I probably wouldn't have been as outgoing with searching for opportunity as I have been, because I would have been so confined by this fear of failure that I would have never tried to step out of those bounds. And by stepping out of those bounds, I've been able to put a smile on my granny's face. I've been able
Oh,
to
yeah.
share insights that I've learned in the industry with bros that I've known my entire life who don't even know nothing about technology, but the insights that I've learned, that I dedicated time to learn, I can share with them, and it'll make their life a little bit more easier. So I'm very grateful for that question, because that fear of failure is like the flip of the
It's
coin
real.
that can change everything for you.
Yeah, it's so true. And I love that you mentioned your granny, because here's the thing, Justice. What we know is that the number one reason someone does not earn their GED is fear of failure. It literally paralyzes our learners out there because they're so fearful that they're not going to pass. And And yet the number one reason that everyone goes on to earn their GED is to make their family and friends proud. And so I think your message is don't give up. A fear of failure is going to be with all of us all along our journey. And the key to that is showing up. As you keep showing up, you build your confidence in yourself, and you're going to show yourself that you're actually capable of more than you even thought that you were. And then, as you mentioned, you made your granny, your mom, your entire family proud by earning your GED. And most of all, you made yourself proud. And you started building that confidence in yourself that actually you do have the skills and the abilities necessary to go on and to get a career in technology, something that maybe you never dreamed that you were going to, or you dreamed, but now it's becoming a reality. And so, a couple more questions. We've talked a lot about your journey. We've talked a lot about all of the things that you've gone through to get to where you're at today. But what is earning the GED meant for you and your life?
What has it meant for me in my life? So it's crazy because when I got my GED, it was around Christmas time. And I don't know, I'm a big like Christmas holiday guy. So there was like this sort of like special, it's Christmas time. It's a little
Yes.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, it felt like a gift, exactly. And I felt like at that time in my life, my family was living in a different state. I was living in California by myself. And I felt like, okay, I might not be getting a lot of gifts this year, but this is the best gift.
Mhm.
And I just remember walking away from that GED center after getting the notification that I passed because I did fail math once before, and that discouraged
Mhm.
me. And I only had one last test, and I left for 2 months, and then I came back, and like I said, the GED educators, they did not judge me. They welcomed me back with open arms. They was excited to see me. And I just sat down and I did the test and I passed by literally like 2 points. And I was just walking out there like it's so hard to describe that feeling. But when I really sit back and think about it, it was a real emotional day for me. It was really emotional because I just felt like I had so many odds against me, maybe more in my head than where they actually were against me. Like I'm still
Yeah.
alive, I'm able bodied, my mind is working, I'm good. But I was feel like I was in a really like down place. And getting that GED just made me realize I'm always gonna have a task or challenge in front of me, but nothing is bigger than what I'm capable of. And at first that felt like such a crazy thought because I was feeling myself after I got my GED. I was walking down, the
You're
notification
bouncing your step.
on,
Yeah.
I was feeling
Yeah.
myself. And that feeling stuck with me. That feeling of like, wow, like it was only 2 points away, but I made it. And then
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
a job that I wanted to apply for, and because at that point in my life, even getting a different job seemed far fetched. But now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna apply for different jobs. I'm gonna see
Yeah.
what's out there. I'm gonna talk to people and figure out what I can do. But just to answer your question, like it was a really emotional day for me because I feel like I've never had a academic accomplishment before. And I was by myself at that time. And the main thing that got me going after getting that GED was knowing that I didn't think I could do it. That's the thing. I didn't think I
Yeah.
could do it, but I did it.
But you
So
did it.
that was
Yeah.
a big day for me. And then that led me off to do many more things after that. So very
Exactly. Start. It was the start to something big, and you're on your journey, and actually you're just getting started. So I
listeners.
love it, and I love that it came around Christmas time. It was a gift. It was a gift that you gave to yourself, and an investment that you put in yourself. So it was well deserved. And Justice, we the sad fact is that there's 40 million adults out there right now. 40 million adults walking around without a high school diploma. And we know that the system works against them. We know that education sometimes is not part of the home. We know that there's life circumstances. Students have to get a job. There may be suffering. They may have bullying in their family. There's lots of reasons that someone doesn't take the traditional path to earning a high school diploma. And
Yeah.
so I love having you on the show today. I love your story. I love everything about who you are and what you've shown, that the GED is actually the beginning of something really great. And it's also, what's more important, it's the beginning of building self-confidence in things that you now know that you can accomplish. And so I'd love to give every guest the last word. I'd love for you to close it out and inspire everyone that's listening, inspire them more from what they've heard. What is Justice Sanders' last word?
Man, my last words is make every second count. Love yourself, love your time. I feel like one thing that, like I kind of spoke on earlier, is that we only get one shot, we only get one shot at this. And one thing that I want to look back on my life is I accomplished great things and I enjoyed the journey along the way. So no matter how it feels right now, don't be too hard on yourself. Keep that growth mindset and just cherish every day because every day is really a blessing. My granny says, so I guess that's how I leave y'all out on. And if you're
Yeah.
getting GD right now, go hard, man. You got this.
Go hard. Go
So
all in, go hard. And you heard Granny. We know that everyone's trying to do this to also make their family and friends proud. So keep going. And so, what I know, Justice, is first of all, thank you for being here. I know that you're super busy. I know it's not always easy to share your story, and I love your vulnerability and willingness to share and to motivate everyone out there. We know that for GED, earning a GED is really difficult. We know that if you're right now working towards your GED, or if you're an adult educator or you're a family member, we know that life is difficult, but you have to keep going. And Justice story shows that. So thanks again, Justice, for being here. Thanks for motivating me and keeping the growth mindset front and center to everything that we're doing. And I'll wrap up by saying it takes one person to invest in someone else's life to change a life. So if you're out there and you know someone that still needs to earn their high school diploma, motivate them, get them to go earn their GED, and know that we are here at GED Testing Service to support them along the way. Thanks again, and please tune in to our next podcast. Thanks again, Justice.
anytime. Anytime.